Come with me if you want to live.
3, 1, and we're live! Hello and welcome to Hoshi's Corner. My name is Hoshi and I'm here today again with my good friend Keith.
Hey, how's everybody doing?
Yeah, and today's topic is John Carpenter. And John Carpenter,
Yes.
a lot of times quoted as the master of horror. And I've actually got a few questions when I posted on Facebook that we're going live today with the topic of John Carpenter, saying that there are a lot of other directors that are a lot more influential and a lot more horror and what that and what not. And so I stumbled on a little article that Variety once wrote about John Carpenter, with directors that quoted that John Carpenter is one of their main influences in their movies. And I'm gonna read the list of directors that have chimed in here. And it starts off with James Cameron, Quentin Tarantino, Guillermo del Toro, Robert Rodriguez, James Wan, Edgar Wright, Danny Boyle, Nicholas Winding Refn, Adam Wingard, Neil Marshall, Michael Dougherty, Ben Wheatley, Jeff Nichols, Bong Joon-ho, James Gunn, Mike Flanagan, David Robert Mitchell, the Duffer Brothers, Jeremy Saulnier, Edward Schultz, Drew Goddard, David F. Sandberg, James DeMonaco, Adam Green, Ted Geoghegan, Keith Gordon, James Thomas Smith, and Marvin Cran.
And that's all the time we have today on the stream.
Exactly.
Thanks for joining us.
So
that's a list of who's who in Hollywood. I mean, you talk about a bunch of people, a bunch of directors, people in the industry that were influenced by John Carpenter. There you go. There's your answer. That's why we're talking about John Carpenter today. He's influenced a generation of filmmakers. His influence on the horror genre is it's unmistakable.
On movie making, special effects,
exactly,
and things like that. And no doubt there are possibly movies that are not that good from him, no doubt. But even in that movies, there are sometimes techniques or things that you discover that are absolutely amazing. For example, I've read a review from the first Daredevil movie, and the reviewer there quoted the rain effect in the Memoirs of an Invisible Man are a lot better than in this movie. It's over a decade later.
Well, that's actually the movie I was gonna mention too. Memoirs of an Invisible Man, not one of Carpenter's most well-known classics. It's one of the few movies that he did that doesn't say John Carpenter's Memoirs of an Invisible Man. John Carpenter always loved to brand his films, put his name above his movies. That one he didn't do. And yeah, the effects in that movie are amazing. The movie itself, a little bit to be desired, but the effects are incredible. And by the way, I do like that Daredevil movie. It's not the best one. It's not the best movie out there, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. A lot of, yeah. The director's cut. The director's cut's fantastic, but
it's like comparing Elektra to Catwoman. Both not so good movies, but one is a not good movie and one is one of the worst movies ever made. So
yes, and you could pick and choose which one, like which one you can label as which. But yeah, those two movies definitely not very, very good.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, and of course it all started out 1974, my birth year actually. So I didn't see this movie on release in theaters. I was born in that year.
You were a little too young.
Yeah, I was a little too young. With Dark Star, which was released in theaters but was actually made, I think, a little bit as a student project of John Carpenter and Dan O'Bannon.
Yep, who went on to write Alien.
Exactly, yeah. And it's actually a funny story because Dan O'Bannon wanted to make a comedy, and I actually have here the French movie poster now shown to our viewers, which shows a hairy surfer with the beach ball monster on his back.
Yes, yes. The beach ball monster is fantastic.
Exactly.
I mean, absolutely love it.
I have to say, it's a really good movie for me. So I watched it several times.
Yeah, very unique movie.
Exactly.
And of course, that started out as their student film, and eventually they got some more money to go back and kind of make it feature length and so on. Definitely one of the kind of hidden gems of John Carpenter's career. Everybody that I know that has seen it really loves that movie. It's definitely very unique.
Yep, definitely. And what struck me so hard is that when you look at the capital that some movies today have to raise to make a science fiction movie, it's absolutely well over the top. and although you can see that the effects on Darkstar have aged somewhat, you can still show them in a theater and say, well, it's okay.
Yeah, for sure.
And the film, the film had a total estimated budget. I'm quoting here boxoffice.com of $60,000.
Yeah, I mean, there's some movies out there with budgets up to 50 to 100 million, and they don't even look as good as Darkstar does.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So yeah, definitely. It just goes to show that, I mean, that's where the talent comes in. You know, someone that can take a very little bit of money and make something very big with it. You know.
Yeah, and take a beach ball and make a crazy monster out of it.
And take a beach ball and make a crazy monster, a cute monster. You know,
exactly.
It's very, very cute.
Yeah,
but
very true.
Now the storyline too behind Darkstar is great. Just a bunch of guys on a ship going and kind of blowing up other stars. It's pretty, or dying stars. This is a pretty interesting movie, and it has a great soundtrack too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And John Carpenter. I think his father was a musician or something.
Yep.
He was a little bit influenced by that also.
That's right. I mean, his father, who also taught him basically what turned out to be the Halloween theme, but which I'm sure we'll get into that a bit later.
Of course, yeah. So that's for me an amazing movie and really fun to watch. So everyone who did not see Darkstar yet, check it out. I think it's available on several sites. So that's a good movie.
Fantastic.
And then he had a little bit of a layoff of 2 years, and 1976. One of my absolute favorite claustrophobic movies of all time came out. Assault on Precinct 13.
Great movie. Pretty much a loose remake adaptation of Rio Bravo.
Exactly. Yeah.
Great John Wayne movie. And Assault on Precinct 13. I didn't see that movie until a little bit later into my John Carpenter obsession. And once I did, it quickly became a favorite of mine. Just like you said, the claustrophobic and actually the brutal violence in that movie too. The little girl getting shot with the ice cream cone.
That's actually why the movie was not allowed to be shown in Germany for a very long time.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Yeah,
it was indexed in Germany, and they had to cut that scene with the girl, and then they could release it. So the scene with the girl was actually not shown in Germany, I think, until the late 90s.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I mean, just the whole story of a police station being closed down, the last day in its operation, and basically the father of this little girl goes to get his revenge, and the gang follows him into this abandoned police station with only a couple of people on duty. and they have to defend themselves from this onslaught, and it's relentless, and very, very much, what is it, Napoleon?
Yep. Yep.
Very, very much like the early idea of where Snake Plissken would come from. I think it's a kind of like the
anti-hero type.
The anti-hero first version of Snake Plissken.
And what a lot of people nowadays say, we need more diversity in movies and everything. This movie had it all. I mean, it had a black protagonist.
Mm-hmm.
It had a strong female character in there.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So this movie already had all of this without talking about it, or without like, we are social justice and everything.
Yeah.
It was just a good movie with a good story.
It was just a good movie. I wasn't such a big fan of the remake. I thought the remake was mostly okay. The Ethan Hawke. The remake was okay, but that original film is just absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. And of course, it was quite a success. And on the success of that, John Carpenter next came out with a movie you already mentioned, Halloween, 1978.
Yes.
And
my goodness,
I just rewatched it, I think 2 weeks ago or something. And what actually is very, very astounding to me is how little happens in this movie.
It's all atmosphere.
It's all atmosphere. You pulled in. You shit your pants. Excuse my French. But it's actually a lot of times nothing is happening. Of course, there are slasher moments, and you have this slasher genre shock moments in there. But a lot of times it's just the music, the atmosphere, the lighting, the camera movement, which is absolutely fantastic, groundbreaking.
It's always the fear of what you don't see, of what's behind that bush, or what's in that room, or what's in the dark. And Carpenter nailed that feeling perfectly, which is why Michael Myers is referred to in the credits as the Shape. He's just something that's there. He's a supernatural force, and he captured that perfectly. I remember seeing that film, and I saw it probably on TV or something in the 80s, and every time I watch Halloween, I am instantly transported back to that time period where kids were going out trick-or-treating, just the feeling of being out on that night. And Halloween really captured that perfectly. It's a very I guess the history behind Halloween is also too that he screened the film for a bunch of executives without music, and they were like, "This isn't scary," and scored the music, his something from his that his dad taught him, which is basically an exercise that he used on bongo drums, essentially. Yep. Went back, scored the movie in 2 or 3 days. Showed the movie again, and people went crazy. So that movie definitely changed the face of what horror would be in the 80s for sure.
Exactly.
And of course, I mean, a huge influence from Hitchcock, who, in my opinion, really had the very first slasher movie with Psycho. And he paid, John Carpenter paid homage to that film by naming some of his characters. Sam Loomis is a character from Psycho. And of course, casting Jamie Lee Curtis, Janet Leigh's daughter in his horror movie.
Yep. And also some of the camera movement angles that he used.
Yes.
And the zoom and move that's basically Hitchcock trademark. Was used in that. But fun fact, do you know, for the longest time I wanted a Halloween mask, a Michael Myers mask, and of course there are some replicas out there that you can buy off eBay, but none of them look like the original mask in the first movie. And
of course.
Do you know actually what they used?
Yeah, it's the Captain Kirk mask.
Exactly.
It's a Star Trek mask.
It's a Star Trek mask.
So it was between that, and I think they wanted to do a clown. And I think they bought, the Captain Kirk Star Trek mask It's William Shatner. So when
William
you
Shatner
watch
turned
Halloween,
inside
I'm
out.
sure everybody out there listening or that's watching this kind of knows that it's kind of. But I mean, they made the eye holes a bit bigger. They teased out the hair. They painted it white, or
And it was
and there
turned
you
inside
go.
out. So and
It finally made William Shatner a star, right?
yeah, he was actually in a lot of shots in Halloween, which he would have liked.
That's right. I'm still waiting for there to be some kind of William Shatner cameo in a future Halloween movie. I think
Yeah, I
there
hope so.
absolutely should be.
I hope so. But I don't know. He has a lot of controversy with George Takei, so, so we'll see about that.
Exactly.
I don't know. Famous quote of George Takei to William Shatner was, "Fuck you and the horses you rode in on." So. Yeah.
You gotta love their little rivalry. That
Yeah,
they have,
I love it.
Fantastic stuff.
But yeah, Halloween, of course, a big success. And what then was a little bit astounding to me that in the same year Halloween came out, John Carpenter went to television and made from the creator of Halloween, John Carpenter's "Someone's Watching Me."
Someone's watching me. Was that the movie that took place in like the apartment building?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
It was like a stalker movie, but then turned a little bit of horror after half of the movie.
Well, the guy just made Halloween, so then
Exactly.
basically at that point they're like, well, can you make something else like that? So of course you could see he's gonna be asked to make. You have to understand too that like Halloween was such a huge success. It was the highest grossing independent film ever.
Yep.
And it kept that record until I think the Blair Witch Project. So that's a very long period of time.
Yep.
So he became famous very fast after Halloween's release.
Exactly. Yeah. And so basically NBC grabbed him. It was an NBC television movie.
Mm-hmm.
And they like said, well, make this movie for us. We give you a bunch load of money. And yeah, he was in. And
that was one of the Carpenters I haven't really seen very much of though. I don't know how accessible it is. Maybe you could watch it on YouTube or something like that. But
yeah.
I pretty much have his entire filmography on Blu-ray or DVD at this point, and that's one of the few that's kind of hard to track down.
Exactly. I don't know if there's a DVD release or something. I
don't think
actually
so either.
watched it because it's a John Carpenter movie once, and I think it was on YouTube or something like that.
Yeah, I think you could find it on YouTube somewhere. It should be there.
Or it was on some NBC streaming. I don't know. But yeah, it wasn't. It's also not that outstanding of a movie. But the next movie is actually a little bit more fun because it's just a year later for another television network that he made Elvis the movie.
Elvis the movie. Kurt Russell.
Kurt Russell is here.
Right? Like their first collaboration together.
Exactly.
Out of many more that they'll have. I actually think that Elvis the movie, especially Kurt Russell playing Elvis, is one of the better. And I mean, a lot of people might disagree with me on this, but I feel that it's still one of the best portrayals of Elvis on film ever.
Yep.
I really think it was a very, very good film.
Me too. I absolutely agree. It's not one of the movies that I watch a lot.
Right.
But I think I watched it again like 1 or 2 years ago, and it was still from all the weird Elvis movies that are out there.
there are a lot.
There are a lot of weird Elvis movies out there. This is actually one of the more, I think, sincere appreciation stories also of Elvis.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And again, Kurt Russell's portrayal of Elvis is, I mean, bar none, one of the best.
Exactly. Yeah. If you watched other Kurt Russell movies before that, and then watched Elvis, you wouldn't have thought that Kurt Russell could pull that off.
Yeah, he was a Disney kid. I mean,
Yep,
he was in a ton of movies as a kid for Disney. The
yep.
computer wore tennis shoes and like all that stuff. And all of a sudden he's Elvis Presley. And then we'll get to where he goes later on in his
Mm,
career. But I mean, it's something I really love about Kurt Russell is he's the guy's kind of done it all.
yep. That's true. But of course, John Carpenter then wanted to go back to the big screen and wanted to do something original again. That's like dear to his heart. And casting his then dear wife. And that movie was one of my absolute favorite movies of all time, The Fog.
Yes, The Fog. Wow. I mean, The Fog was just, I think the first time I saw that movie was also on TV.
Hmm.
And, because I was really young at this time. I was born in 1976. So I didn't see a lot of these movies until much later, until they were on TV or cable or,
Yeah, me too. Yeah,
or
yeah,
released on home video or something like that. But my favorite thing about The Fog is the opening.
yeah.
Is that ghost story that they're telling around the fire.
Amazing.
Um,
Yeah,
it's just sets the it sets the stage for what's to come. And of course you get Jamie Lee Curtis back again. You get Adrienne Barbeau, who I really loved in this movie, and just such a really cool old fashioned ghost story.
and what for me so amazing in this movie is also, I mean, John Carpenter scored most of his movies,
Hmm.
but the soundtrack of The Fog for me is absolutely spot on
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
because it's
Um,
again, even when nothing is happening, she's sitting in her lighthouse slash radio tower,
yep.
and the fog bank is coming in, and you just hear the music, and she's talking softly. You already shitting your pants. It's, and
Uh,
nothing is happening, but it's so scary. It's absolutely amazing. I don't know
it
how he
just
pulled that off.
Yeah,
It's
it sets a mood and it sets an atmosphere and there's tension,
yeah,
which I feel like a lot of films are missing today.
yeah,
And especially when a director like John Carpenter scores his own films, he knows exactly the type of feeling that he wants to go for. I mean, a lot of composers, really nail it when it comes to composing music for films. But
yeah.
when you got the guy that wrote it, you got the guy that directed it, and he's making the music for it, he knows exactly when to get you and how to manipulate you. He knows exactly what he's doing, and that's another one of Carpenter's big talents. He says he's very cheap. He
Mm.
works fast and he works cheap. That's why he does his own music. But it's way beyond that. The guy is also a super talented musician.
Yep. It's actually a quote, another quote I have for you, from none other than Hans Zimmer,
Hmm.
who said that watching The Fog made him to want to become a composer for movies. He actually just wanted to become a musician and a composer, and a conductor, I think you say
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
but he didn't think about composing movies until he saw The Fog, because he was so immersed due to the music that he
Wow,
thought
I
he
didn't know
wanted to
that.
pull
I
that off.
didn't
Yeah.
know that. Wow, Hans Zimmer.
Yeah.
I
Didn't
did
think of
not
it
know that.
because he's actually a very I think commercial composer for a lot of commercial movies, not like these
Hmm.
independent horror movies.
Hmm.
But for someone like him saying that as a
Yeah, that's pretty.
classically
That's
trained musician is really amazing.
I totally agree. Yeah, that's pretty impressive. Another name to add to the list.
Exactly.
From It's incredible.
Yeah, yeah, and from The Fog, which as I said, I loved it. Actually, funny story. When I first saw The Fog, I was much too young for it.
Hmm.
Don't tell you my the age, but it was much. I was home alone with my two brothers. They both were a lot older than me, so I'm the little one. We're watching The Fog, and Of course, the movie scared the shit out of me and everything, so I was already a little bit jumpy. And it was like this autumn night in Austria where we have a lot of fog. So there was fog outside of my window, and so that I wouldn't see the fog, I closed the sunshades and everything. But one of my friends and we were living on the basement on the ground floor in an apartment house, and saw the light behind the shades, and they like knocked on the shades to, so that I would look out the window. And when they knocked on the shades, I was panicking. I was in full
I
panic
can
mode.
imagine. I can imagine. Yeah, but so you know what? Then he did his job.
Exactly. Yeah.
He did his job. I mean, that's the point of these movies, just to put a little, just to make you a little bit more aware of what's going on behind the curtain. And it's
Exactly. Yeah.
I think The Fog is also a masterpiece in tension.
Yep.
And just building and building and building, and when you finally get to the end of the film, and you discover kind of what really is happening, and what's happening in I guess, what is it, Antonio Bay?
Yeah, Antonio
Right,
Bay.
it's Antonio Bay. Yeah, what's the history behind Antonio Bay and the citizens? What happened with a lot of the citizens there? Yeah, it just comes to such a great conclusion. And as we know, John Carpenter's movies, a lot of them don't really have happy endings.
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
know, like a lot of these movies are very dark in the way they end, and Fog is no exception.
Yep. Very true. And just a year later, another masterpiece, and also commercially very successful, Escape from New York. Snake Plissken.
Escape from New York. Yeah, I think Escape from New York is one of my favorite Carpenter films. It's especially coming from so I used to live and work around the New York area.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're growing up and you see kind of like a movie that takes place very close by to where you live, and actually you see spots that you see every day that are in a movie, you kind of like feel a bit more connected to that movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, true.
And I just loved the idea of crime as being so high that they're just going to put a big wall around New York and make it a prison. There's something about that very dystopian. And of course the character of Snake Plissken, played by Kurt Russell, he was just this mysterious guy, and sounded a lot like Clint Eastwood, and he was suddenly tasked by Lee Van Cleef to go in and rescue the president, and another great soundtrack, and yeah, it's for me, it's a masterpiece. Also, I mean, not the most exciting movie, it's a very kind of like slow paced movie. It's not as like action oriented as a lot of people would believe. There's some action in it, but it's very kind of slow as compared to like something like Escape from LA, where they ramped it up a bit more. Mm-hmm. But Escape from New York, there's kind of it's a bit of a slow build.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it has a little bit of a pacing. It takes its time, but even like this, the movies when it's basically landed and walks through the street and sees the first people, and so I think that this also again draws you into a mood that you don't have if there would be non-stop action from the get-go.
Oh yeah, I mean, and Carpenter is a genius as far as setting up like what that world is like. He's very good at crafting. He's very good at world building. And you mentioned earlier the list of directors that were influenced by John Carpenter, and James Cameron was on that list. James Cameron painted. He did a lot of matte work for Escape from New York. He painted a lot of cityscapes and so on. So he worked closely with John Carpenter, so I mean. So you could definitely see where his where that influence came from.
Yep.
But Escape from New York is still still for me one of my tops as far as not just Carpenter films, but just films in general. I love it.
Yeah, very true, very true. And yeah, it's just a well done movie, and the ending also is absolutely excellent, I think, because it just drops you off, and you have
Yeah.
something to think about.
Yep.
So it's
I mean, again, the anti-hero that is Snake Plissken, who just doesn't give a shit.
exactly.
You know what I mean? He's you're gonna kill me now, Snake? I'm too tired. You know what I mean? It's like he'd kill you, but he's just a little too tired right now. You know what I mean? It's great. And you never really quite feel like I don't know, Snake is really a bad guy. He just lives in a bad world. You know, he's a survivor, and that's something I really love. Like if you're able to survive and be like that much of a badass in that world, like, man, he's just definitely one of the all-time best movie characters out there.
Yeah, and then only again a year later, one of my favorites again, The Thing.
The Thing. I mean, what else could we say about The Thing?
The Thing is just, for me, what's so amazing about The Thing is that with a much lower budget than expected, it still was one of the bigger budget films of Carpenter, but with a lower budget than you would expect today, that he pulled something off and shot it so beautifully. I mean, you can watch the 4K remaster. I actually watched it on with a buddy of mine has like this huge 77-inch OLED, 4K OLED, which I could never afford. And we watched the remaster of The Thing. It looks the opening scene where they fly in the helicopter. Looks
they're chasing the dog. Yeah,
it looks so amazing, so crisp, amazing. Like even today's cameras, I don't know how they could film that back then.
You know,
it's absolutely fantastic.
It's interesting because I mean, The Thing. I mean, we talked about it on one of the earlier streams. It's like that movie was not very well received when it came out. I mean, it came out in 1982, same year that E.T. was released, and everybody loved E.T. E.T.'s a friendly alien, and everybody loved E.T. And then, on the other hand, you have The Thing, where there's this evil alien, and so it didn't really do well. It was a commercial critical failure. It almost ended John Carpenter's career, actually. I mean, he was having a hard time finding work after that. And now all you hear is how much everybody loves The Thing. How much everybody loves it. Oh, it's great. So, I mean, timing is everything. Especially when it comes to releases, especially in 1982, which I consider to be one of the greatest years ever for film. And so, like, you got to imagine, like, there were just tons of movies coming out. How do you release a film about an evil alien after there's been a movie about the alien that everybody loves, But now you have board games of The Thing. You have brand new vinyl releases by Waxworks Records of The Thing soundtrack, the lost cues of The Thing. The Thing is everywhere now.
Yep. Actually, now today, it has a critics rating on Rotten Tomato of 84%.
There you go.
And an audience score of 92%.
Yeah, I mean, it finally got its due.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it just got its due recently. Like it's been pretty popular for a while. Just unfortunately, when it first came out, it just didn't catch on. And thankfully, due to VHS, DVD, Blu-ray, 4K, digital streaming, that movie has definitely been able to kind of be recognized as the masterpiece that it is, and it is a masterpiece, and arguably it's Carpenter's best film for sure. I mean, and he loves he's a big Howard Hawks fan, So the fact that he was able to um, step into that world as Howard Hawks made the original Thing from Another World film. So the fact that he was able to sort of step into that arena for someone that he admired was probably pretty cool for him.
That's very true. And what also is staggering for me, even if a lot of movies like lose their fascination, especially when they have special effects, and you show them in this high resolution 4K on a very good TV, you like see every flaw in the movie.
Absolutely.
But The Thing, you can watch it, and it's still amazing. The practical effects they had in there are so scary and so gory.
Still again, some of the best practical effects I've ever seen. I guess Rob Bottin and I mean, just an unbelievable amount of practical effects that, like you said, still scare and amaze. And that movie does not seem, the only thing that dates it is the fact that it's set in a specific year. But that doesn't hurt the movie for me. It's not like, you watch an older film that says present day, like something like Friday the 13th or something, where any movie that says present day and it's shot in the 70s or 60s, or, you go back and you're like, okay, but if it says a specific year, then, I can go with that a bit easier. But The Thing is and I guess that's what was so disappointing about the prequel that came out, is that they also tried to emulate and have more practical effects, but at the last minute they decided to go more CG and remove some of those practical effects, which is for me very disappointing, because I thought that movie wasn't too bad. If they want to tell a different aspect of that story, but I think the CG really ruined it for me.
And the funny thing is also, before The Thing happened, the next movie that John Carpenter was set to direct by the studio, so he said, I make this, you can do The Thing, but you have to do, the next movie you have to do is Stephen King's Firestarter.
Yes, and he was
after The Thing, he was pulled from the project.
After The Thing, he was pulled from that project, and actually John Carpenter and Stephen King are pretty good friends to this day, and he was really into doing Firestarter. But after The Thing, Universal fired him, and basically he needed a job, so he did Christine.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which I don't think that John Carpenter felt very connected to that story. And I think it's Christine and Memoirs of an Invisible Man are the two that he really didn't connect with. It's not really stuff that he wrote himself, stuff that came from him. So I think it was just a job for him,
Yep, true. And the movie feels like that. I mean, I still appreciate Christine.
So do I.
But it's not like the movie that of John Carpenter that I would watch all the time.
I agree. I also do like Christine. I actually think Christine has some pretty good effects in it too, like the car coming back to life and so on.
Yeah, exactly.
I think there's some iconic moments, and I really love the soundtrack.
That soundtrack is amazing.
I mean, Bad to the Bone when they're building the car in the beginning. Yeah. it's so there are a lot of moments, and the source material is a bit different than what the final movie was, but I mean, but I don't think that it's one of his worst movies. I really think it's actually, but you could definitely see his heart wasn't in it.
It was. It's like if you know what you do very, very well, you can still do it. But it's not your best work if your emotion is not in it.
Right, and I think Christine is definitely one of those for sure.
Yeah. So that's Christine for you. It's still a fun movie to watch. So. Dear viewers, if you want to rewatch it, still a good movie.
And you mentioned earlier Keith Gordon, who was influenced, and Keith Gordon was in Christine, and he was fantastic in that movie.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, and then actually he did a movie that I liked much more. but was a departure from his horror movie days. And that was John Carpenter's Starman.
Starman.
And I have to
Starman.
say,
Yeah.
I've rewatched it. I rewatched a lot of John Carpenter movies for today's stream. And it's good. I like it. I have to.
I love John.
Have to admit it.
I love Starman. I have the Blu-ray. You know,
Yeah.
it's a movie that I remember watching when I was very young, and you know, I love Jeff Bridges. I love Karen Allen. She's Karen Allen, of course, from Raiders of the Lost Ark. So you know, she was very famous at the time, and she was fantastic in that movie. And then I think afterwards there was also a TV show that came out of Starman. So like there was a lot of, I mean, that movie, and I think it's the only time Carpenter was nominated for Best Director? I think it was. He was nominated for Best Director for that movie.
I checked it.
Yeah. I think so too. And I mean, Starman was his like big shot at an awards movie. And the music again was great. It was very, very, you know, tugged at the heartstrings. But yeah, it's definitely one of his better movies that a lot of people don't seem to revisit very often, which I think is a shame.
Yeah, because I really enjoyed it. Yeah, and this is the only movie that he was nominated in.
Ah, there you go.
And actually, Jeff Bridges was nominated for Best Actor.
So there you go. That was Carpenter's real big chance to bring home an Oscar.
Yep. And also the soundtrack is very, very nice, I think. Which is really, really good. And the funny thing is, it's actually the same year Starman then was David Lynch's Dune.
Oh wow! Okay.
So I'm fact checking a little bit now.
Oh wow! Another pretty good year for some movies there, because I mean David Lynch's Dune is, we could do a whole other discussion on that
exactly.
one. But I mean I actually kind of like that movie for what it is.
Yeah.
But I'm actually looking forward to the next Dune film that's coming out. I can't wait for that. That's going to be fantastic.
Very true, yeah. Yeah, and Starman, I think it's more of a rom-com, you could say. But...
Yeah, it's a fish out of water. It's a fish out of water road trip movie, you know. And yeah, again, it's just one of those, like, it wasn't typical for Carpenter at the time to make a movie like that. But I mean, you could say that like all of like those weird things of where the alien sort of like grows into Karen Allen's boyfriend, like the image of her boyfriend or dead husband, I think it was. That's some kind of grotesque stuff and very, very weird and like very interesting effects there. But yeah, it's kind of a romantic comedy road movie, fish out of water.
Yep. And always when I watch it, I want to have apple pie, so it's okay. Yankee apple pie.
Exactly.
That's fun. Yeah, and then and it was quite successful actually. So also got very high ratings from the critics, as it wouldn't have been nominated.
Yeah, exactly.
For an Academy Award. And then John Carpenter got into big trouble.
Yeah.
With Big Trouble in Little China.
Yes.
Which is
just, yeah, what can we say?
I mean, I absolutely loved this movie from the moment it came out.
Yeah.
I think it was the first John Carpenter movie that I actually saw in the cinema when it was released.
Ah. Okay.
And I absolutely loved it from the first time that I watched it, because it's such a fantastic movie. I was proud of myself that even watching it the first time as a young kid in the cinema, I got it that Kurt Russell was not the hero of the movie.
That's something I always tell people. Like I've got I've been especially recently, have been telling a lot of people to watch this movie. People that have never heard of it before, people that don't know anything about it. So I think Big Trouble in Little China is the very first John Carpenter movie I ever saw, and I saw that movie on VHS, but I saw it before anyone else got to see it. I got to see it before anyone got to see it in the theater. My uncle, who makes movie trailers and used to edit movie trailers, he edited the trailer for Big Trouble in Little China.
Whoa!
And
cool.
I was visiting him, and I was a little bored. We had a family get together, and he said, "Hey, do you want to watch a movie that I'm working on?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." And he put in the VHS of that he had to work on the movie of Big Trouble in Little China, with the time code on the top and the bottom. And I watched this movie from start to finish, and I had never seen anything like this before. I fell in love with that movie. And from that point on, and I didn't know who John Carpenter was at that point. I was a kid. I was 10 years old.
Yep.
And from that point on, once I started seeing John Carpenter's, blah, 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 it intrigued me more and more. Oh, this is the guy that directed Halloween. This is the guy that directed The Thing. This is the guy that, directed Escape from New York. And it just got me more and more into his movies. And so Big Trouble in Little China was definitely the start of my love for John Carpenter. And to this day, it's still not only my favorite John Carpenter movie, it's one of my favorite movies of all time. If I were to have a top 10 or something like it definitely takes its place probably in the top 5.
Yep, me too. I totally agree. I absolutely love the movie. When I don't know what movie I should watch, I can put this movie in and have a great time every time I watch it.
Every time, and you always find something new.
Exactly.
You always laugh at the jokes. The music is great. I believe it's the that do the main song "Big Trouble in Little China"
Yeah.
at the over the closing credits, which is of course John Carpenter and all of his buddies in that band. And yeah, I mean, great music, great action.
The only thing I actually hate about the movie is not in the movie, but there actually was an MTV music video with John Carpenter with the song. And this music video is so terrible.
It's very 80s.
Whoa,
it's very
bad.
80s. It's on. I think it's on the DVD too. It's on the DVD and the Blu-ray for
you're
sure.
right. You're right.
It's on there. Definitely check that out because it's
so bad.
It's something special. For sure, it's something special. But no, that's whenever people ask me about recommending a John Carpenter movie to them, it's usually one of 3 films. It's going to be Halloween, it's going to be The Thing, and it's going to be Big Trouble in Little China. I mean, all the other movies, they'll come later, like They Live and so on. Those, but I really feel like those 3 films really define John Carpenter and his career.
And also a really cool thing about, because this movie has a true cult following. It's a movie with a huge cult following, and you can meet great friends because I have a T-shirt which is nothing, which is not obvious because it has like the Pork Chop Express logo on it. And nowhere on the T-shirt does it say John Carpenter or Big Trouble in Little China or everything. It's just the Pork Chop Express logo. And I went through my hometown of Graz with the thing, and was of course before the coronavirus a few years ago. And I watched met a now very dear friend of mine who said, "Whoa, dude, where you got the T-shirt?" We have to talk. Let's go have a beer.
Yeah, I mean, and when people know it, they know it, they love it.
Exactly.
I don't think I've ever met a person that has said, "Oh, I did not like Big Trouble in Little China." Like, I don't think I've ever met a person that has ever said that. Everyone I know really loves it. And again, like you said before, it's something that I tell people all the time. They say, "Oh, Kurt Russell's in it." And I said, "Yeah, but his character really thinks he's the hero, but he's really the sidekick
Exactly.
of the movie." And then they get it. Then people get that movie. They're like, "Oh, I see what's going on here." And of course, we talked about we may have talked about it earlier, but Big Trouble in Little China was originally written to be a Western.
Yep.
And Jack Burton's truck was originally going to be his horse, and his horse was going to get stolen, and then they rewrote it, and it became what it is today, of course. But I'm really kind of glad that they didn't keep it as a Western, and that they kind of modernized it a bit. It's definitely something special for sure,
so
and also great effects. I mean,
amazing,
fantastic effects.
Even I have to say, the lightning effect from one of the three gods of the elements or something.
The three storms.
The three storms, yeah. The lightning effect is so good. I
Some
think
of the best.
It's even better than like Thor's lightning in Avengers. Because that you see it's CGI, but the lightning in Big Trouble in Little China, actually it looks like real electric lightning.
Yes, it does. And of course, he gets one of the more spectacular deaths in the film.
Exactly.
Lightning. He's showing off and shooting lightning in every direction, and then he just drop a statue on his head.
Exactly.
It's so good. Really, really great film. It's a movie I like to revisit at least once a year.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And Arrow Video. If you don't have Big Trouble in Little China on home video, I would definitely suggest getting the Arrow Video release of it on Blu-ray. That it's for me, it's one of the best versions that's been released.
I totally agree. I have that, and that's because again the picture quality absolutely amazing.
It looks like it was made yesterday.
Exactly, yeah. And I think that one of the reasons is that John Carpenter liked to shoot, I think, on 70mm or something, and most of his movies are on a very anamorphic tape.
He loves it. He loves shooting in that format. You could fill so much of the frame. There's so much going on, and there's a lot of detail.
And especially like in Big Trouble, where sometimes when you rewatch the movie, you see things in the background happening. That's absolutely fantastic.
Always.
I mean, I could watch the scene when they in this storehouse where they escape through, and they wait with the guys on the other side. There is so much happening in the background.
Oh, I know.
It's absolutely hilarious. You can watch this scene 10 times and see that's happening. It's amazing.
Yeah. It's a beautifully shot movie, and again, unfortunately, that's another movie that just like commercially just didn't do that well. I think like one of the it tanked. I mean, because and my uncle has told me this on a couple of occasions. They just didn't quite know how to market the movie. What is it? Is it an action comedy? Like, is it a fantasy? What is this movie? I think maybe I would like to see maybe a modern version of a trailer for that movie, to see how they would market it, or how they would make a modern day trailer for that. But yeah, just people just didn't know what they were going to see, and I think it's another movie that needed a few years to kind of get the appreciation it deserved.
Yeah, and also the critics didn't know what to do with it, because in the beginning it had a very low critics rating, and today it has an 87% critics rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
There you go.
So totally reversed their their thing on that one. So that's
as they should, because it is a masterpiece.
Yeah. And speaking of masterpieces, for me also a masterpiece, even though with a much lower budget, because Big Trouble in Little China obviously tanked, was his next movie, Prince of Darkness.
Prince of Darkness, with some of the same cast, I believe, from Big Trouble in Little China, which is pretty cool. Alice Cooper, also in it. Again, an underrated classic, very Hammer horror influenced.
Again, very
Great.
claustrophobic.
Another claustrophobic, all taking place in what, the basement of a church.
Exactly, yeah.
A really, really creepy movie.
And actually, the even the basic idea was, for me, was so crazy that like this Satan was stored as a liquid. It's absolutely crazy idea, and
Yeah,
with the physicists in there and everything.
I know. And it's in some of the visual very very disturbing and very scary.
Yeah,
A lot of the liquids being shot.
yeah,
It's a very intense movie.
exactly.
But
Yeah,
also like these people getting messages from like the future and stuff.
yeah,
It's a very deep movie. And yeah, we know Carpenter loves to explore, apocalyptic visions, and so he loves that kind of stuff. Prince of Darkness is definitely again, like I said before, an underrated classic. Not a lot of people even know about that movie
yeah,
if you're not a big horror fan. So
exactly. Yeah,
it's another one that I definitely suggest
yeah. And this
to
movie can
people.
freak you out, and it will make you afraid of mirrors.
Yeah, yes, it will. I have to say though too. I mean, some of the effects in Prince of Darkness don't really hold up that well. You have that
Yeah,
big
that's
kind
true.
of like hand that's coming through. It's
Yeah,
like all right, the hand doesn't look great, but if you can get past that kind of stuff and just kind of go with the atmosphere that he's creating and kind of this the story that he's telling, it's definitely a good one.
yeah. And I think for what for me is so compelling about the movie also, like you said, it mixes so many genres.
Yeah,
It
absolutely.
has its very own pacing.
Hmm.
The pacing of the movie is if you look it from today's perspective, where everything has to be like shaky camera and fast, it's actually very slow paced. But even the action-esque scenes, like the stabbing with the half bicycle and that, it has speed to it, but there is no shake cam, but it's like a steady cam, straight movement. And
Yes. And
um,
it's shocking.
yeah,
It's not like it happens and it's over and then we're onto like you're kind of like you're in shock when you see some of these scenes, and and the pacing of the movie kind of lets you calm down a bit, and then it just brings you right back into another.
mm,
So it's that movie's definitely for me a bit of a roller coaster ride.
and you actually can um, there can you if you watch one of the um, production note featurettes from Captain America Winter Soldier,
Mhm.
where Captain America really kicks ass.
In the elevator.
Yeah, exactly. And when he gets out, and this floating scene where he does these floating moves and the camera just moves along with him,
Mhm.
it looks
Mhm.
extremely powerful.
Yeah.
And one of the Russo brothers actually in the commentary says then, yeah, it's the John Carpenter Steadicam.
Oh wow. Wow.
So
Interesting.
yeah,
Which, of course, we didn't even mention that before when we talked about Halloween, like
yeah,
that amazing Steadicam shot that
exactly, yeah,
opens the film.
yeah.
Incredible, incredible shot.
So he's often quoted, as it would seem, even in film school, yes,
Yeah, I mean,
because
even
of this.
is something as big budget and something as mainstream as Captain America: Winter
Yeah,
Soldier,
yeah,
he's being imitated, and it's incredible.
yeah. And then one of my one another really weird movie came out after Prince of Darkness, but which I also really like. They Live,
Yes. Um,
and
they
again,
live.
it's a very slow movie.
Yes. Even the fight scene is slow.
Yeah, but for me, I for example, I really like to watch, for example, the UFC. and
Yep.
MMA fights. And for me, this was the first portrayal of a real MMA fight.
Yeah, I mean, of
Of
course.
two dudes that were not really knowing what they were doing, of course.
Yeah.
But it was like a real street fight. It was nothing
Yeah,
like.
I mean,
like,
I think, of course, Roddy Piper, who plays John Nada,
of course, was a professional wrestler. Yeah.
Professional wrestler. I think he was always like, we should do this move, and we should do this move, and I think they were just always adding to it and just kind of making it more and more ridiculous. But it's over. I mean, really, if you think about it, it's over just the fact that he wants him to wear a pair of sunglasses.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's just what makes it so funny, you know. Yeah. That these guys are just beating the pulp out of each other. But yeah, They Live is also just a classic, and
what gets me with this movie, I really love this like old sci-fi horror movies, like Man with the X-ray eyes, Soylent Green, the Omega Man.
Oh yes,
and all that stuff. These are really like movies that are dear to me, and for me that's actually a movie in that kind of genre.
Yes, I agree. Especially the way the aliens look. They have a very 50s kind of sci-fi look to them.
Yep.
And just the idea behind it of that we're being kind of manipulated and controlled. Those all of those story points still stand up to today, with consumerism and so on, and so that movie I think still holds up. It's a bit dated in how it looks, but the ideas behind it, it's definitely still very relevant to our lives today.
And what was really funny to me was a lot of people, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, I saw a lot of people running around with t-shirts with Obey on it.
Yes.
And always when I saw one of those t-shirts, I went over to that people and said, do you know where this is from?
Yep.
And they said, yeah, well, this is from marketing, and we have Obey, but who invented it?
Exactly.
Because it was the same font from the movie.
Yeah, of course. I mean, because that's where the artist got it from, Shepard Fairey, who does Obey, and Andre the Giant has a posse and all that stuff. Yeah. But I mean, it's from They Live. That's where it's from. So yeah, I mean, it's great. Again, it's another movie that I definitely tell, or I've introduced a lot of people to, and yeah, they love it. I mean, it's the more I tell people about John Carpenter and like the ideas behind his movies, and his movies are very nihilistic and very dystopian, and like we mentioned that before, but people seem to identify with it. People seem to like John Carpenter is able to tap into that bit of humanity of what makes us afraid. And what we can identify with on a very subconscious level. And he's very good at doing that. And They Live is the same thing. It's like, hey, maybe you should just sort of look beyond what is just laid out in front of you. You can look a little deeper and see what's happening with the people that are running your country, your government, with what you're reading, with what you're seeing on TV. He's very aware of those things. And it's a shame that They Live is not more popular.
Yep. It actually got a little more popular, like I think it was 1 or 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Because Roddy Piper, of course, is the star in the movie. Mm-hmm. And one of his greatest fans is Rowdy Ronda Rousey.
Yeah, that's right.
Who's now in the WWE, a professional wrestler.
That's right.
It was before that a UFC fighter.
MMA. That's right.
And she actually was in an interview wearing a They Live t-shirt, just with the font. And so a lot of people seem to have picked that up. And after that, it actually shot the audience rating in Rotten Tomatoes up.
Oh wow! Okay,
so
that's pretty cool then.
It was really, really fun. It got a little bit of a boost there.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So that's also very nice. Yeah, and yeah, fun movie. Also very disturbing ending.
Yeah, another movie where the ending is pretty dark.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
don't want to spoil it for anybody that hasn't seen it, but like his movies do not have happy endings.
Yeah, exactly.
So-
Except maybe the next one, which I hate with a fiery passion, but I already quoted it for the effects, which is Memoirs of an Invisible Man.
yeah, this movie was a bit of a misstep. You
I
know,
mean,
again, not a movie where that he had his heart and soul into, but the guy, making films, it's a job. So sometimes you have passion projects, but also sometimes you gotta make movies to as a job to keep yourself relevant. And I think that's what I think that's what this movie really was. I mean, Daryl Hannah and Chevy Chase just doesn't seem quite. I don't know. Just didn't seem quite like. It didn't seem very Carpenter like. And definitely, and also Sam Neill is in it too,
yeah,
who
exactly.
he'll work with a couple more times as well.
And the fun fact is actually that there were a lot of directors in the running for doing the movie.
Yeah, that's
But
right.
Chevy Chase actually insisted on John Carpenter, which was
Yeah,
a little bit astounding. On
it's quite interesting. But I mean, you watch that movie and it just reeks of studio involvement. It doesn't
yeah,
seem like it's any John Carpenter like this any John Carpenter influence or style.
yeah,
Or so I mean, while I do own the film and I have it next to all of my other John Carpenter films, I don't necessarily, that's not one that I revisit very often. And I'm a huge fan of the original Universal Invisible Man film.
mhm.
Actually, I'm really looking forward to watching the new Invisible Man movie that just came out. But this one,
Which is not bad.
yeah, I've heard lots of good things about it.
Yeah, I actually liked it.
But
I mean, it's not
yeah,
groundbreaking for me, but it was a fun movie.
yeah, and I mean, Memoirs of an Invisible Man just isn't even fun. I mean, some of the effects are great.
Yeah, like I
Again,
said,
effects
the
are
rain
great.
effect where you only see him in the rain, amazing,
Yeah,
amazingly well done.
but definitely not one that you need to see. It's avoidable.
Yeah, and for me also it felt all the time. It felt like, yeah, I had no creative freedom, so I did what I had to do.
That's right. I think he just kind of wanted to get it done and move on.
Yep. And then of course, yeah, I think we can move on. um, and then of course a short episode of TV again with one of the short episodes of Body Bags.
Body bags. That's right. Where he plays the. Doesn't John Carpenter play the coroner as well?
Yeah, true.
He's
Yeah,
he's kind of like the crypt keeper
yeah.
of this. I had Body Bags on VHS, and I remember enjoying it, like the Stacy Keach story with the hair and so on. Right?
Yep, exactly. Yeah.
I liked it. I mean, I thought it was fun. I was very much into Tales from the Crypt, and I was like, wow, cool. John Carpenter's doing his own like little Tales from the Crypt kind of thing. So not his greatest stuff, but I thought quite fun.
Yeah, and I think it helped him also a little bit in the terms of leverage for making movies. Like he got a little bit of the respect of the community back, of the filmmaker community, to make more movies.
Yeah.
And to get financed. So I think it did also well in that regard for him.
Yeah, I agree. It's also pretty hard to find. Another one that's kind of hard to find, I think. I mean, I know I have it somewhere, but I remember really looking very hard to find that on VHS back in the day. And I mean, I'm sure a DVD is available, but it might be a bit more expensive and not so readily available. But if you could track it down, definitely check it out. It's worth watching.
Exactly. And then the next one I actually really liked again, which was In the Mouth of Madness.
Yes.
And
Carpenter's entrance into very more Lovecraftian,
exactly, yeah.
yeah,
And
lore.
a lot of people say it's too weird for them,
Hmm.
especially with the ending. Don't spoiler alert when he goes like into the movie theater and then has his breakdown because
He's
he
what?
realizes what the whole thing is.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah, it's a tough moment, but I really love it.
I I love a lot of things about In the Mouth of Madness, and I have a love hate relationship with that movie because um, actually think it's a very fascinating film, but I hate the fact that I sometimes just don't know what's going on in that movie. And as many times as I've gone back to watch it, and it captivates me, and it's very the music is great, and Sam Neill's performance is great. There's so many things wrapped up in that story that whenever the movie ends, I'm still just not quite sure what
What
happened
happened? Yeah,
there.
yeah,
Yeah, and I mean that could also be I don't need things laid out for me to say this is the story. I do like to think about things, and I don't need it spelled out for me. But that movie, I can't even put my own opinion together as far
yeah.
as what happened at the end. But I do like it very much. I think it's the last great Carpenter movie, but it's not a great Carpenter movie,
Yeah, yeah. I
if
think
that makes any sense.
I really like the movie because
Hmm.
not so much. Also, maybe because of a memory I have of the movie. Because back in the day, when we watched In the Mouth of Madness, um, I watched it the first time I watched it with a good friend of mine. Went to the theater, um, um, like for an early screening. I think it was 6 p.m. or something like that.
Hmm.
And he was also a huge Carpenter fan. He loved Prince of Darkness and The Thing and everything. So we said we have to watch this movie. Went first day, went to an early screening in theater. So went in there, watched the movie, came out of the movie. We were both were like, "What the fuck is going on?" and went back in for another screening because
We
we had
need
to
to see that
immediately, yeah,
again.
we had to
Yeah.
immediately watch it again because we didn't know what the fuck was happening. So,
Oh, I know. I know. You know, yeah, it's just such a bizarre film. But
exactly, yeah.
but it's
So weird.
yeah, and I do like to revisit that one every couple of years
Yeah.
too. And like I said, I love the music to it, and yeah, it's just so bizarre. But and of course you can't deny the Stephen King influence. Do you
Mm.
read Sutter Kane and all that stuff? You can't. So I'm a huge Stephen King fan.
Yeah,
So
me too. Yeah.
I really connect with the movie in that way. But
I hate a lot of Stephen King movies, but uh,
a
really
lot of
huge.
Stephen King movies aren't great. But I mean, it's you can't deny like the Stephen King influence,
Yeah,
of course, on this, and of course. Um, John Carpenter directed a Stephen King book in Christine, so he
exactly. Yeah.
kind of knows what's going on in the mind of Stephen King for the most part, and I think he brought a really good sense of that to In the Mouth of Madness.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and then a movie that was not so great, for me at least, Village of the Damned.
Ah, Village of the Damned. Um,
I actually was really looking forward to the movie
me too.
because the premise is really good.
Premise is fantastic, and the original film is great.
Yeah.
Um, and if you've ever read the book, which is the Midwich Cuckoos, that book
Okay.
is very very good. But
I have
yeah,
to remember that.
I
I
had
didn't read the book.
such
Yeah.
high hopes. I
Yeah.
had such high hopes for Village of the Damned, and at the end of the day, it's not a horrible movie. It's just not a really good movie, and
Mm,
you could tell at this point. This is when Carpenter kind of seems to be a little bit maybe bored with making movies. I don't know.
mm.
he did such an amazing remake or reinterpretation of The Thing. So you would think like, oh, he's going to take this source material or this book and really make it into something special. And it really wasn't that special. And I can't figure out why it wasn't that special. It just didn't quite, hit the mark. And you had a lot of like amazing actors in it too. You have Christopher Reeve and Mark Hamill and all these like these very, very good actors. And the movie just didn't land.
Yep, very true, very true. Yeah, and yeah, not much more to say about this movie because
no,
I
unfortunately
actually
not.
haven't seen it in years because I actually really it just didn't pull the story off for me.
Yeah, I totally get that. I totally get that.
But a film that's not really awesome, but I still like it, is Escape from LA.
I will always go to bat for that movie. I really enjoy Escape from LA. Yeah, of course, people are gonna say, oh, it's just basically a remake of Escape from New York. But yeah, that's kind of the joke.
I mean, it
that
has
movie,
machine gun surfers.
I mean, look, Escape from LA is very much like a reboot before they did reboots. But it just, you know what I mean? It just didn't come out at a time where people were labeling stuff reboots. And it's a bit of a reboot. It's almost beat for beat the same movie as Escape from New York, and it's almost like a spoof of Escape from New York. But I really enjoyed it because you couldn't have the same type of like darkness as the first movie did, and you have all of those tropes of LA of like, the Surgeon General of Beverly Hills played by, Bruce Campbell and all these like really kooky, interesting, funny things. I thought the music was great. The Shirley Walker music was fantastic.
I think so
and also
too.
a great soundtrack, like lots of cool music. The effects, not so good. There's lots of like really bad
cheesy
CG, cheesy effects. I love the fact that Pam Grier was in it. Kurt Russell looked great. Steve Buscemi. It had a great cast. It seemed like Kurt Russell was having fun playing Snake Plissken again.
Exactly. For me, he plays it also sometimes like it's a little bit of an homage on his first iteration of Plissken. Because he took the testosterone level to another dimension with it.
Yes.
And so that's really fun for me.
I agree. I of course, again, people make fun of the surfing scene and stuff like that, but it's like it's so ridiculous. Like, of course you're gonna have something like that, and then they have that little assault on Disney World at the end. It's so good. I mean, It's a B movie. You can't see it any more than what it actually is. It's I know a lot of people were disappointed in that movie, but I actually really enjoy it. It's a movie I revisit quite often. I'll try to watch Escape from New York and Escape from LA hand in hand. Like right after Escape from New York, I'll throw in Escape from LA as well.
Yeah, it's fun to watch them back to back.
Definitely a lot of fun. And if you're lukewarm on the movie and you haven't seen it in a long time, go back and watch it again and just kind of remember that movie's just meant to just be fun. Nothing. I really wish we would have gotten a third one. What Carpenter was originally planning, which is Escape from Earth. Yeah, exactly. So that would have been a nice cap to a really cool trilogy of films.
Yeah, that would have been great. I agree. Yeah, really, really fun. And actually, what I have to say, the next movie is actually one of my guilty pleasure movies because a lot of people hate it. It's John Carpenter's Vampires.
So you're a big fan of that movie?
I'm not a big fan, but I actually enjoy the movie quite well. So it's an action vampire movie with a Catholic Church twist.
Yes. Yes.
But I think it's fun.
I like the opening of Vampires.
Mm.
I think the movie gets a bit boring, actually.
Mhm.
I think the performances are great, but after maybe the first 20-25 minutes, I always find myself quickly getting bored with that movie. I like, it's definitely not one of my favorite Carpenters.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not one that I would recommend to people. And I do feel that it just loses steam after
Yeah,
that. I mean, it has
that's
a
true.
fantastic opening, and especially then the vampires coming in and just kill his whole team. And I think at that point it just gets a bit I don't know. I could take it or leave it. I have it in my
Mm.
collection, but it is not a movie I visit very often.
Mm.
I might have seen it maybe once, maybe twice, but
Yes, I've seen
not
it a
one of my
couple of times.
favorites.
It's not the John Carpenter movie that I would pick up for a John Carpenter movie. But it's yeah a lot better than many other vampire movies.
That's true. That's true.
Of course, one of my favorite vampire movies to this day is not this one's, but it's Near Dark.
Oh, Near Dark is great.
Of
With
that
Bill
movie.
Paxton
Yep.
and Lance Henriksen. Yeah, that is a fantastic movie. One of my favorite vampire movies. And again, this is going to show what decade I grew up in.
Mm.
I love The Lost Boys.
Yeah, Lost Boys,
I'm a
amazing.
big Lost Boys fan.
I mean, all the sequels suck.
Yeah, I think what they made they made two
Yeah,
direct to video.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're not very good. Stick with the original.
And they're
Um,
even in talking about a direct to streaming sequel now,
mhm.
and I don't know how that would play out.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
But yeah,
But yeah, vampires. I could take it or leave it, and I usually leave it.
yeah. Okay, I'm fine with that. For me, it's still a fun movie to watch, but yeah,
Yeah,
I
fair
can
enough. I mean,
I know why you don't like it, so
yeah. I
can
mean,
agree with that.
it's yeah.
But I think a movie that we both agree is not good is the next one, Ghosts of Mars.
Ghosts of Mars. Oh man.
That movie is bad in so many ways.
It really is, and it was a weird experience for me watching Ghosts of Mars because I actually went. So I was working in New York at the time, and a friend of mine mentioned to me, "Hey, they're screening John Carpenter's new movie Ghosts of Mars at the DGA, and he's going to be there for a Q&A,
Mm.
question and answer session after the film is over." I'm like, "Done. I'm in. I want to go." So I went. I went with a friend of mine. We watched the movie and we were like, "Woof, man, this movie's bad. This is just a bad movie." And you could definitely see that they were maybe like this could have even been like a Snake Plissken movie because
Mm.
I kind of felt like Ice Cube was very Snake Plissken-y.
Yeah, and
The prisoner transport and all this. It was like very Escape from New York, but like
mm,
on Mars, and there's some like zombies and ghosts or whatever is going on there.
yeah, this,
And after the Q&A, people like didn't even talk to John Carpenter about the movie. Like he didn't even talk about the movie.
and I have actually two very funny stories that I connect with Ghost of Mars, even though the movie is crap.
Yes, it really is
The
bad.
one funny thing was there was like this trailer and you see the main ghost villain zombie guy that
Mhm.
has like this
Yes.
when he's standing there.
Big Daddy Mars is his name. Big Daddy
Okay.
Mars.
And
Yep.
one of my pals actually said, "Why the hell is Marilyn Manson in that movie?"
Yeah,
So
I mean,
this was really fun. And after seeing the movie, I told a lot of my friends this movie is really bad. Don't go see it. And one of them said, "Well, it has one redeeming quality. There is Natasha Henstridge in the tight bodysuit." And he's right. That's the
and
one
he's right.
redeeming.
That
That's
is
this the one redeeming quality of this movie.
for me. There's two because I'm a
Okay.
big fan of Pam Grier as well, and Pam
Yeah,
Grier
true.
was in this movie.
True.
I mean, she wasn't in it for very long, but Pam Grier looked pretty good in it too.
Look pretty great.
But Natasha Henstridge definitely looked
Amazing.
pretty good in it
Yep, yep.
for sure.
And
But I mean,
It
Ghost
has
of
a
Mars,
it
what
has
a
some
stinker.
funny scenes, yeah, which like are yeah funny. Um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and in some scenes you can see that he still has like this camera works that he's really known for. Some shots
Hmm.
are really nicely photographed.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's all the redeeming qualities I really can say about this movie.
That's about it. Yeah, it's not even I think he got like Buckethead to do some of the music. Like it had a
Yeah,
lot of like guitar and I just
I
didn't
hate the
connect with
soundtrack.
it. Yeah, I don't like the soundtrack
Yeah.
either.
And I'm
I
a fan of guitar music. Like
Yeah, I am as well.
I even listen to like very independent guitar soundtrack things like Steve Vai or something like that.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
I hated the movie soundtrack with a fiery passion. So yeah,
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the only redeeming quality of that night for me was getting to actually talk to and to meet John
mm,
for the first time, and I got to talk to him for a few minutes, and he signed my Halloween CD, and we had a nice conversation. But other than that, at Wolf Ghost
yeah.
of Mars, just not a good movie. Not a good movie. Which I
Um,
also think might be the kind of like the beginning of the end
yeah,
at that point for Carpenter.
because he went on a very long hiatus. I
Yes.
think he collaborated on some um, video games. I
Yeah.
think he had a great influence on the Dead Space series,
Yeah,
and
he's a big video game guy.
yeah he also said that video games for him are an art form like movies,
Yeah.
which he's right. Some video games truly are. I mean, not Super Mario Brothers, but there are video games out there like Dead Space. Dead Space would, in my opinion, make an awesome movie because I was really scared playing that.
Hmm.
All three parts, so really love that. And yeah, he had a very long hiatus. I think it was until 2011 or 2010.
Hmm.
I have to. Yeah, 2010. And then came John Carpenter's The Ward.
Yeah. What'd you think of the Ward?
And I have to say, I went into that movie with. I mean, The Ghost of Mars was his last movie,
Yeah.
and so I had a little bit. I didn't have much faith for the movie, especially since I heard it was not like his own project, but he was brought in on it
Right. Right.
to finish it and to direct it. And I thought, okay, maybe it's another thing like with Memoirs of an Invisible Man, where he just went in to make a cash grab or something.
Hmm.
And then I watched the movie, and I have to say, I really enjoy it.
I enjoyed it too. Again, when we talk about John Carpenter, it's not going to be the first movie I mention.
Exactly. Huh?
But if we're doing a small retrospective of his career and the movies that we love, I'll definitely mention it
Hmm.
because, like we said, when it comes off of some not great movies that he made, and after such a long hiatus, it's it's a good movie. It's not great. It's not like, oh my God, this is going to regenerate his, revive his career and bring him back into the mainstream. No, it's not going to do that either. But it was an entertaining film. You could definitely see the touches.
Yeah.
He is a master of his craft. I do feel the film looks a little cheap. I think that there's just something about the film where it doesn't feel big. It feels very small. It feels very, but maybe that's what they're going for. But for me, that wasn't very clear.
Yeah, the
So
film
it
had a very small budget also, I think.
absolutely. So I mean, not his best, but definitely not his worst.
Yeah, totally agree. The Ward for me it was why I liked the movie. It had some for me some really scary elements in
Hmm.
in the whole well, I don't want to spoil it too much, but um, you kind of get that there might be a twist in the end, but it's not too obvious.
Right.
Yep. So It's not like this. Oh, I know the twist after
Interesting build.
first 5 minutes of the movie, which is sometimes some movies that happens. But with that
Yes.
movie, it's like there are hints in there, and you get it
Mm-hmm.
really quickly when it happens. But it's not too obvious for me. That's also a fun thing.
Exactly. No, I completely agree. It might be one I wouldn't mind revisiting again.
It's not like the Sixth Sense twist, which really smashes you, but
yeah, it does. Which I think at one point I'm going to have to share a little story about how that twist was ruined for me.
Okay.
But we'll do that another time.
Okay. Yeah, so that's John Carpenter, and I think before we end the stream, we also have to talk a little bit about unrealized projects of John Carpenter. Of course, we already talked that he was like, shoved out of Firestarter.
Yeah, he was fired for that.
And then actually,
unfortunately,
same thing happened with the Philadelphia Experiment.
Mm-hmm.
Which he was actually co-writing it, and then it was rewritten completely.
That's right.
So yeah, would have.
I mean,
loved to
John
see what he
Carpenter.
would
Don't
make.
forget too. John Carpenter has also written a lot of movies that he's never directed. I mean, like Black Moon Rising with Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah.
I mean, Philadelphia Experiment. There's a lot of screenplays that he's written that have been produced that he wasn't directing either. So like the guy has really done it all. He's really done it all.
But I give you a few fun projects that I never thought that John Carpenter was involved with.
Mm-hmm.
And the first one, it was 1980s The Ninja.
Aha.
So this was actually a David Brown production for 20th Century Fox. I always say 20th Century Fox since Muppets. 20th Century Fox. And Carpenter wrote the second draft with Tommy Lee Wallace. And but the studio said this is not filmable. How you guys want to do it? Because apparently even in 1980 it already had like elements from Big Trouble in Little China in it. And so Fox quit on this whole project, and Zanuck and Brown started to work with Warner Brothers, and yeah, something totally else developed out of it.
Crazy.
And next fun one was 1984. Carpenter was actually attached to Santa Claus the movie.
Oh my goodness, he was attached to Santa Claus the movie.
Yeah.
The one with
Brian
Dudley
Dennehy.
Moore. And Brian was that Brian Dennehy? Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And also Dudley Moore was in that movie as well, I think, if I remember right. Yeah. Oh my goodness, that would have been.
And the thing was that John Carpenter, the story goes that John Carpenter read the screenplay, which was not written by him. So he read the screenplay, said this is total garbage, and then left the studio. So yeah, fun thing. And the next fun thing is that in 1985, John Carpenter was the first director to be offered Top Gun.
Yes, that one I remember. You know what? I'm glad he didn't do it.
I too, but the fun fact for me is that he turned it down because he told the studio this movie will never be a success.
Hey, look, we can't always be right about everything, you know. But you know what? I think that was a smart move that he didn't direct it.
Yep.
Because I mean, it's just again like we said with Memoirs of an Invisible Man. It's just not his.
Yep.
It's just not his wheelhouse, man.
Exactly.
Like, you know, it's.
I totally agree. I feel absolutely happy that he didn't do it.
Yeah, me too. That's definitely. Can you imagine like an alternate universe where John Carpenter directed Top Gun, and it's like you know, I wouldn't mind seeing that movie, but I think it's good that we didn't get it.
Then he was actually attached 1986 to The Golden Child.
Ah, that's right. That's right.
But he said, no, I prefer the script for Big Trouble in Little China, and I want Kurt Russell in my movie. And so, you know, that split happened.
Those two movies are in a lot of ways very similar.
Yep, true.
You know, and I like the Golden Child very much. Golden Child's very funny, of course. Eddie Murphy,
Yep.
And Egg Shan from
Yep.
Big Trouble in Little China is also
Exactly.
in the Golden
He's also in the Golden
Child.
Child, yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, it's a very, very funny movie. My brother Numse.
Yep.
Very good.
And in an interview before his death, John Candy actually revealed that he wanted John Carpenter to direct Armed and Dangerous
Oh wow.
in 1985
Okay.
or 86.
Mm-hmm.
So
Was also Eugene Levy in that one as well? Armed and Dangerous.
yeah, I think so. And it was
I think so too.
then
Yeah.
directed,
Yeah.
I think, by Mark Lester.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. I may have only seen that movie once, years and years ago, so I don't remember so much about it. But interesting.
Yep. Then John Carpenter was also offered Fatal Attraction.
Yeah, that one I remember hearing about. Also could have been a very, very, very different movie with him directing that one. But I kind of like the idea of John Carpenter directing Fatal Attraction.
Yep, me too. Yeah, I think this would have been very different from what it ended up to be.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, but could have been a really great movie, I think.
Yeah,
But
I
I think
agree.
there were too many creative differences, and so I think Adrian Lin, was then directing the movie.
That's right.
Still a good movie. I like Fatal.
Absolutely. But with Carpenter at the helm, that could have gotten some very interesting story elements and some style there.
And then he was offered part 3 of The Exorcist.
Mm-hmm.
And the story goes that he met with the writer William Peter Blatty, and the two had so many disagreements about the script that John Carpenter actually said to Blatty, "Fuck this."
Yeah, and I mean, of course, William Peter Blatty wound up directing Exorcist 3 himself.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, which again, I think Exorcist 3 is not a bad movie. I like it.
No, it's okay. Absolutely.
But it could have been definitely something special, something even possibly better with Carpenter.
Yep.
At the helm. Who knows? We'll never know.
Yeah, and then in the 90s, he actually was offered to direct Tombstone.
Oh, okay. That would have been another Kurt Russell collaboration.
Exactly. He was interested in the film also because Kurt Russell was in it.
Yep.
And that went south, I think, because also of some studio involvement thing. I can't remember actually why it was. And you're actually right.
He never really got to do his Western. You know, that would have been perfect because John Carpenter has always really wanted to make a Western. That would have been a perfect opportunity for him.
Yep. And what you were partly right from was that in 1996 there actually was a script titled Escape from Mars.
Yep.
And which ended up being Ghost of Mars.
Yep.
But it was said to be like a Snake Plissken sequel, but was of course canned by the studio because of the failure of Escape from LA.
That's right.
So that
you could see the influence. I'm telling you, you could just see all of the elements are there for it being a Snake Plissken movie. It's all there. So I'm so glad that it wasn't a Snake Plissken movie.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he did a lot of collaborations. He was in the running for the Halloween age 20 director. But
that's right.
Turned that around. Of course, I think he produced or something. Age 20.
I think he was offered. He was offered the director's job, but I think he wanted too much money. And I think basically, so what it always comes down to, John Carpenter is kind of infamous for just saying, "Hey, pay me and I'll do it." You know what I mean? And Jamie Lee Curtis wanted everybody to come back and have it be an anniversary and so on, and he wanted a certain amount of money, and the studio, which was I believe Dimension, owned by Miramax at the time, they didn't want to pay him the money, so he was just like, all right, see ya, and that was it. So
what was a little bit beyond me actually was that Ghost of Mars was said to be a trilogy, which of course was canned after the first one bombed.
Oh God, yeah, thank goodness. Thank goodness that happened. No, not not trilogy material. Everything that was told in that story, that's all we needed. So.
Then John Carpenter was actually set to be the first, when it was still planned as a TV series, to be the director of the pilot episode of Zombieland. Because it was
cool.
first envisioned as a TV series like Walking Dead.
Yeah.
And then became the movie it was. So, but he was set to be the director of the TV pilot.
Could have been very interesting for sure.
And actually, Robert Rodriguez wanted John Carpenter to make the music for his film Planet Terror.
Yes.
But that didn't pan out. I don't know why.
Yeah, it's a shame. But I mean, the music is already very Carpenter-like.
Exactly. So, yeah, it's very Carpenter-esque.
It's totally fine, and you could definitely see the Carpenter influences in that movie as well. I am glad that he came back to do the music for the new Halloween movie, because that soundtrack is amazing.
Amazing, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And what I didn't know that is a very, very funny fact. John Carpenter is a really huge fan of Sonic the Hedgehog. Video games. He loves to play them. And for that alone, he was in the running for directing Sonic the Hedgehog movie.
Oh my God.
Which I find absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, me too. No, can you imagine John Carpenter's Sonic the Hedgehog? No. No.
This would have been absolutely crazy.
Oh, now that I'm thinking about it, that could have been very interesting.
But what is actually still spoken about to this day is in 2015, in an interview, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson said that one of his favorite movies of all time is Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah.
And he's gathering like a following to make a sequel.
Yes.
And he's obviously still talking about this to this day. Of course, he has a lot of other projects going on. And I'm really hoping he pulls that off, because I think The Rock could bring that Kurt Russell-esque style with him, because he's a funny guy too.
Yeah.
And he can pull off this funny guy thing.
I don't know. I think I'm a bit torn on that one. I don't know if if it's just a straight up remake. No, I don't want a remake of Big Trouble in Little China. If it's some type of like sequel reboot thing, like they're doing with Jumanji, the Jumanji series, then I'd be a bit more on board.
Yeah, he says he doesn't want to make a reboot or anything. He actually wants Kurt Russell in the movie with as Jack Burton.
That would be pretty fantastic then.
And he like wants to make like really a sequel like that he really pitched it like, I think it was like 20-30 years later, that the ghost of the main villain comes back.
Lo Pan,
yeah, exactly. It's getting late. I forget things. That the ghost of Lo Pan comes back and like reforms or something, and the storms get resurrected and stuff like that. So
hey,
could be really fun.
If they get John Carpenter, if they get Kurt Russell, I'm in.
Me too. That would be really fun, and I hope the Rock pulls this off, because it seems to be one of his pet projects.
Yeah, it seems definitely like a passion project kind of thing for him. So yeah, let's see.
Yeah. What I'm not so on board with is, even though it's Robert Rodriguez, which I really like, is he said that he wants to reboot Escape from New York.
Yeah, I think that's a mistake.
Yeah, me too. Because it's such a classic for me. I don't know how you could pull it off.
Yeah, but we've said that before about tons of other movies. Like, how can they remake this and how can they remake that? But people still do it. And you know what? Fine, go ahead and remake it, and it'll be put out into the world. But we'll still always have the originals. I just don't see a point in a lot of
everything.
remakes. I just don't see a point in it. Like, but Hollywood is a business, and they're always trying to keep the machine going. But it's just not something. I mean, a lot of the Carpenter remakes have not been very good. Assault from Precinct 13 and The Fog, and didn't they also remake? Oh, geez, what was the other one that they remade? I can't remember. Didn't they also remake?
I mean, I think there was talks of a remake of They Live, actually.
Right, but so they remade Assault on Precinct 13. They remade
The Fog, yeah.
The Fog, and I thought there was another one that they did. Maybe I'm wrong.
They kind of remade the. It's within the franchise.
Yeah. But I mean, those movies were not very good.
Yeah.
for sure. Just not very good.
Absolutely agree. Absolutely.
I mean, there's a reason why John Carpenter is regarded as one of the best. And if you just kind of take some random director, it just proves the talent that Carpenter has. You can't just make a movie like The Fog and then remake it with a total new team of people. It's just not going to be the same movie. Exactly, it's not going to feel the same. So yeah, that's why I'm not such a big fan of remakes. A reinterpretation of someone else's material, for me, doesn't work very often.
Yep. There are very few remakes that actually really pulled also the atmosphere of the original movie up.
Oh yeah, or greatly improved on it, like Carpenter's The Thing. He did a remake, essentially, and a reinterpretation, and it was absolutely fantastic.
But you have to say, I read the book, which is titled "Who Goes There," and actually John Carpenter's The Thing is closer to the book.
Oh, absolutely! That's what he wanted to go right back to that source material, because the original Thing from Another World is it's a big departure from he's basically a giant vegetable monster, exactly. So it's very, very different.
Teddy bear with a helmet, so
exactly.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, so Keith, long talk. Let's wrap it up. Yeah, some last comment. For me, John Carpenter, he was a visionary.
Yes.
He was in many cases a lot of times very much ahead of his time. That's why a lot of his movies became such cult classics now. And there are a lot of books written about him. He's cited on art school and things like that. So I think he was a really, really great influence of the movie business.
I agree.
And a lot of times he had really bad timing for his movies, like you said, E.T., The Thing. Bad timing.
It happens.
I think if you make Big Trouble in Little China today, it would be a hit immediately.
Who knows? Yeah. I mean, the good thing is that we still have it. Better late than never to be appreciated for your work. And yeah, John Carpenter is definitely one of my favorite directors. I revisit his movies often, and I always try to get as many people as I know or as I can that don't know his work, just to watch a couple of his movies and to kind of keep the word going about him, because he's definitely a special director that I don't think we're going to see again anytime soon. I mean, We have a lot of unique directors working today, but John Carpenter was definitely
very unique.
Very unique, and yeah.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, but we got a lot of music from him lately. So
yes, a lot of the lost themes and great stuff. Great stuff.
Apparently,
you can track that stuff down.
He's working on a new album. So.
Yeah. And of
Twitter.
course, like we mentioned before, he's doing the music on the new Halloween movies with his son. And so we're still getting stuff from the guy. So that makes me happy.
Exactly. Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah. So we'll wrap this up for today. Thanks to our viewers for watching. Leave us a follow, leave us a like, leave a subscribe. We hope you enjoyed our content and our very long stream today, almost 2 hours.
Yes.
Keith, thank you for sticking with me.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, and
I appreciate it.
I'm Hoshi and Keith, and we'll say goodbye to our viewers and see you next time. Bye bye.